Well, what's up in there, guys? Brian here, D3 Topics Game here to share with you another one of my awesome worst to best ranking videos. Now, this is going to be a little bit odd to do this type of ranking video on my channel, but they recently released a new music video to celebrate the 20th anniversary of my all-time favorite Linkin Park album of all time, and my favorite album in music in general, in the form of Meteora. If you want me to do like a reaction to the music video, which is titled Lost, let me know. So with the release of this new music video, as well as we might be getting some new information about what the band is going to be up to in the near future, I thought this would be a perfect time as ever to do my own personal ranking of all of the official Linkin Park albums, ranking from worst to best. Now, if you do happen to enjoy this video by the end, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep checking me on my future videos. Remember, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know in the comments down below. And again, if you would like me to do a reaction video to Lost, let me know also, because I have had a chance to see that multiple times, but I don't mind rewatching it. And just to let you know, before I start, this ranking is just my own personal opinion. So, if you have your own, just don't come at me too hard. So as we jump right into the main tier list, as you can see right here, I found a good list online that had like even some of the little side albums that they released. So we are working with 9 right here. Now, just to get it out of the way, I did have a chance yesterday to kind of listen to all these albums pretty much all day just to get ready, so I knew exactly how to do my ranking. And this is going to be kind of controversial, but I don't really care. But without question, there is literally only one album that I personally, as a big Linkin Park fan, as a fan of Linkin Park since 2003, that I just flat out would not recommend. And it has to be the last one that they released while Chester Bennington was alive and before he passed away, sadly. But it has to go to One More Light here. I'm sorry. This is the only album I just flat out cannot recommend. At this stage in the band's history, they were trying. I'm not really sure who this album was for, because at this stage, they were trying all different types of sounds, different tones. They were trying to do a lot of experimenting, which is a key thing that Linkin Park did over the course of their run. But by this stage, I felt like I have no idea who this album is for. Because at this stage, you're not going to bring in any new, younger fans. And this damn sure ain't for your older fans. So it just kind of felt like a weird experimental album where they were trying to do something. And just the themes that they were going for just didn't necessarily work for me. I've heard this album only twice. I heard it when this first came out, and I thought that there was only one song on this album I thought was any good and could have fit on an earlier album. But past that, I found myself skipping this album a lot yesterday. And I was just like, I understand that they were trying to go for something different. And they want to show their maturity, because they didn't feel like they want to do albums like Meteora or Hybrid Theory or Mincemeat. They didn't want to try to do sounds like that. They want to show their growth. But at this point, it was just an album that I personally just was not really a fan of. So unfortunately, it is the only album on here that I just sadly would not recommend. Now, if you happen to enjoy One More Light, I'm happy for you, but this was just not an album that worked for me at all. Now, going up the list, I'm going to actually have to put, the next one that I'm going to have to put is going to be a little bit strange, but I'm actually going to go with 1,000 Suns. I thought this one was just okay. There were a few good songs on there in the form of Burning the Skies and Empty Spaces and Fallout. I thought those were actually pretty good, but this one was... there was just nothing on here that really stood out. There were just a few good songs. Maybe on a good day, I would listen to it, but I just don't think 1,000 was a particularly strong album. A few little sprinkles of greatness in there, but just, I think as a whole, just nothing all that special. Nothing truly great, in my opinion, which is why I would put it in just the okay tier. Now, this one is also going to be a little bit weird. I'm also going to put this little Jay-Z Linkin Park thing that also in okay. It wasn't really a full album, but it was a little collaboration between Linkin Park and Jay-Z. And I remember they did this collaboration mixing Numb with Encore. And I think the song itself is great. I mean, trust me, Numb is one of Meteor's best albums. But as just an album, it's just okay. I think they released this just like a single, but again, I do think this version of Numb mix of encore with Jay-Z. I think it's just okay. I like when Linkin Park kind of stands on their own and they don't do collaborations. I think that's when they're at the strongest. But overall, I thought it was just okay. Next thing I'm actually going to go with is, give me a second. This you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go with Reanimation. Reanimation, just to keep it simple, is pretty much just a remix of all their songs from Hybrid Theory. Now these remixes are good. They're great. And I think this album did manage to sell like a million copies at one point, if I remember correctly. But you know, remixes in some songs are never as good as the originals. But I think it's a good listen. I think on a good day, this is like something I might pop in at the gym. But overall, I do think it's a good album, no doubt. But what I would certainly put above that, no question, is I'm gonna have to put The Hunting Party. I think The Hunting Party was their. I think this was like their last tip to actually go back to their older style of music. I just felt like it was a bit too late at this point. I think this was their last attempt to try. I think the fact that this Hunting Party came out before One More Light is sorry about that. I think they attempted to make songs like that, but at this point they did feel a little bit dated and it felt like a little bit too late. So that might have been the reason why they attempted to go as radical as they did in One More Light. But overall, I still thought The Hunting Party was great. It just felt like some of these songs came out like maybe 5 to 10 years a little too late. I honestly think some of these songs you could have put on some of their earlier tracks or earlier albums, and I think they would have for maybe a few tracks. I think the one that stands out to me the most is probably War or Until It's Gone. I think those are the two songs on this album that really stick out to me the most. As we go to the great tier, without question, I think that Living Things is a great album. Plenty of songs in there that I really, really like and are in my top 10, like Lost in the Echoes and Castle of Glass, and especially Burn It Down. Burn It Down is by far I would even put that in like, it could be somewhere ranked in 6 to 10 in terms of my favorite Linkin Park songs of all time. This is a very strong album that came out in 2012. So this is like a good time for them. And then but moving forward, I will put Minutes to Midnight ahead of that as a great album. Some people don't like Minutes to Midnight, and I don't understand why. Because I think by 2007, I think this was really where Linkin Park was getting more commercially popular. I think they were becoming a little bit more well known. And some people thought they were selling out. I didn't think that at all, because when you have one of the best experiences that I ever had connected to this album was when I went to go see the first Transformers film, and they played What I've Done at the end, which I thought was great. And then they actually, I think for the next two Transformers films, they would have Linkin Park songs. So Linkin Park became kind of connected to Transformers, which I thought was fine. I mean, even Revenge of the Fallen, that had like the one redeeming thing was that it had a Linkin Park song connected to that. So yeah, I did think Minutes to Midnight was still a great album. I listen to that one all the time. Now, when we come to the last two albums, depending on who you watch or who you're talking to, these albums are constantly switching. But when it becomes a Hybrid Theory and Meteora, these are the two albums that are definitely the strongest, without question. But for me personally, if I had to pick, I would have to pick as Hybrid Theory as just amazing and come in second place. Now, Hybrid Theory came out in 2000, which is a few years before I became a Linkin Park fan. Now, as great as Hybrid Theory is, my only complaint about it, overall, as a fan, is that I believe that their most legendary iconic song in the form of In the End is so far above every other song on this album that it just makes it a little bit unbalanced. Only slightly. Like, it's so high up, it kind of pushes the other songs down. And it's because of that, none of the other songs on here can really compete. Like, songs like Paper Cut or Crawling or Runaway, Forgotten, Place in My Head, Pushing Me Away. These are all great songs on their own. It's just, in the end, it's so much above that it just kind of like leaves these other songs in the dust. And because of it, it's just a little unbalanced. But without question, this is an incredible album. In fact, I would even say just success-wise, I think this is their best-selling album of all time. And it was their first album, so that really says a lot. And to many fans, this is their favorite, and I completely understand why, because it's still to this day, 23 years later, this is still an incredible album. But for me personally, I have to go with my favorite album of all time. This is the album that made me a Linkin Park fan, and that is the form of Meteora. Favorite Linkin Park album of all time. Favorite album of all time. If I had to choose between going to a, say, Michael Jackson Dangerous concert, which Dangerous is my favorite Michael Jackson album, or a Linkin Park Meteora concert, if I could go back in time and only go to one of these concerts, I would pick a Linkin Park Meteora concert every single time. Sorry, Michael, you're great, you're the king of pop, but Meteora in that era pretty much defines probably one of the toughest periods of anyone's life, which is my teenage years. I mean, from 2003 to 2007, starting to go through high school, tough period. All of these songs were very relevant to me then and are relevant to me now. So when you have songs like Don't Stay, Somewhere I Belong, which is my favorite Linkin Park song of all time. I would even say Somewhere I Belong is the song that defines my life even to this day. Breaking the Habit, Figure of Nine, Faint, Easier to Run, No One's Listening, Numb, Session. These are songs that I think are more well balanced together, as opposed to something in Hybrid Theory, where in the end it's just so much above everything else. All these songs kind of balance out. They're all in the same tier, and that makes, to me, Meteor a much more balanced album than Hybrid Theory. But that's just my opinion. So that'll do it for my ranking. Now, if you are a Linkin Park fan or you've heard these albums, I would like to know, how would you rank them from worst to best? Share your ranking with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will catch you all guys next time.